Hi guys, I'm Christian Minga. I'm an illustrator, cartoonist, artist, jack of all trades. Today I'm going to draw the Joker for you guys. At home I started with a pencil sketch, and I tend to draw everything in a different color, not gray. And I picked Joker because he's my favorite character. And I'm going to start with a brush pen. It gives me a lot of different line width and weight, so I can play around with where light source is coming from. I can play around with detail. So I got started drawing like this, well, in this style, because I really wanted to work in comics. I didn't like traditional house style, and I was always trying to draw a house style, and it just looked like, I don't know, it didn't look very good. So one day, a friend of mine, he and I decided to put on a gallery show using characters that we liked, but doing it in a style that was more true to ourselves. And that's where this started. And this was about 9 years ago. Last year, my kind of dream came true, and I was approached by Jim Fletcher at DC Collectibles to work on a really top secret little project that he and his team were putting together called DC's Artist Alley. They asked me if I wanted to be, kind of say, the guinea pig, along with two other great artists. I remember getting the phone call, and then they told me, we'd like you to do Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, and that's the Trinity. And I remember being really calm, kind of held my myself together, said, yeah, of course, I'm gonna do this. Getting off the phone and losing my mind because I was finally getting a chance to work on the characters that I love the most. I got to do the Trinity as my first introduction to DC Comics. Okay, so I'm going to grab a Micron from my little goodie bag that I bring with me everywhere. And I'm going to use a PN pen. It's a little bit thicker than a normal Micron, and it'll give me a steadier line to draw his crooked teeth. So I always draw him with jacked up teeth because I'm like, he gets beat up a lot, and I think it gives a lot of character to him, and it makes his smile kind of a lot more interesting, at least to me. So every time I try to do something different, I'll try to do a pupil different, I'll try a different smile, different hair, but I like to keep him in a suit, like a black suit. And because there's been so many kind of incarnations of this character in the movies and comics, I kind of tend to borrow something from each. You'll see when I do the face, I'll use a lot of the Heath Ledger kind of makeup because I love that grungy, dirty look on this really well put together gentleman. I'm gonna start with a 3, cool gray 3, and I'll just start to add in the values now of where I want the shadows to go. And for some reason, I always start with the little pockets in the ears. It's not the darkest shadows, it's kind of that medium value, but it just helps me see where I'm going to have to revisit. And I think this goes back to when I paint watercolor, you always go dark, light to dark. So I always do tons and tons of layers of colors on my pieces because I like there to be a lot of kind of subtle hints of color under grays. Okay, I'm going to take this tissue and I'm going to smudge because I like there to be, some mistakes, some grit, some dirt. So there's like wet ink. I like that to smudge. So now I'll take 5 gray And I'll start to go in again and start to add more shadow. Like, I like to draw him really intense, not too scary looking, but just creepy enough. Okay, so I bounce around a lot. I'm using darker gray here because I want to fill in the areas like around his teeth that are dark, but I don't want it to be like as dark as his suit. I want that to be the darkest part. So now I'm using a pink because I want to put in a little bit of flesh, some rose in his cheeks and his nose, kind of that tipsy, had too much to drink look. So now, because I've added gray everywhere and pinks, when I start to add the flesh on top, it brings in all these different kind of color values, which I really like. Now the red's gonna come out for his lips. And I use 3 different reds. One's a little bit brighter, has a little bit of orange tint to it.